The backyard was silent, except for the hungry crackle of the flames. I stared at the grill, watching the fabric of my only decent dress, the one I had saved 6 months for, curl into black flakes. The blue silk was gone. My dignity, according to Albert, had gone with it. "You're an embarrassment, Nora," he had said, his voice as sharp as the crease in his designer tuxedo. "I'm a VP now. I can't have a wife who smells like grease and wears thrift store rags standing next to me when the CEO is watching." He didn't just walk away. He strutted. He left me in the dirt of the home I had paid for while he was studying. He left to pick up Veronica, a woman whose only merit was a silver spoon pedigree. Before we go deeper into this story, take a second and hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and let us know where you're watching from. I'm curious to know how far these stories travel. I stood there for a long time. The smoke stung my eyes, but I wasn't crying anymore. The woman who loved Albert died in that fire. The woman who remained was Nora Cooper. And Nora Cooper didn't just have a modest blue dress. She had the keys to the kingdom. I picked up my phone. My fingers didn't shake. I dialed a number I hadn't used in 7 years. "Mr. Henry Wood," I said when the line connected. "My lady chairwoman." The voice on the other end gasped, thick with immediate, unwavering loyalty. "Are you ready for tonight's gala? We have been waiting for your signal for nearly a decade." "The experiment is over, Henry," I said, looking at the charred remains of my marriage. "Send the team to the secondary penthouse. Prepare the Paris gown, the midnight velvet. And Henry, I want the $50 million diamond set, the Star of Stanford. Tonight, I arrive as a queen." 30 minutes later, 3 black SUVs rolled silently into the gravel driveway of our modest suburban home. Neighbors peeked through their curtains as a team of stylists, makeup artists, and 2 armed security guards stepped out. Henry Wood, the chief operating officer of the Stanford Group and my family's most trusted advisor, bowed low as I stepped off the porch. He looked at my faded jeans and the soot on my hands with a pained expression. "He did this to you?" Henry whispered. "He did me a favor, Henry," I replied. "He showed me exactly who he is before I gave him another 7 years." We moved to the penthouse. The transformation was surgical. They scrubbed the smell of the backyard from my skin. They styled my hair into a sophisticated, effortless updo that screamed old money. Then came the dress. It was a masterpiece of midnight blue velvet, hand-stitched in Paris, shimmering with thousands of microcrystals that looked like a literal galaxy. Finally, the diamonds. The Star of Stanford necklace was heavy, a cold, brilliant weight against my collarbone. I looked in the mirror. Nora the waitress was gone. Nora the embarrassment was a ghost. Standing there was the woman who owned the very air Albert breathed. I'm curious, if you were Nora and you had the power to take it all away in a single second, would you do it immediately or play the long game? Before we continue, take a second and share your thoughts so far on this story below. I read every single one. "The gala has already begun, ma'am," Henry noted, checking his watch. "Albert has just finished his introductory toast. He is currently making a very public display of affection with Veronica." I smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Perfect. I want him at his highest peak before the fall. Let's go." The grand ballroom of the Stanford Plaza was a sea of gold, champagne, and ego. Albert was in his element. He stood in the center of a circle of board members, holding a glass of vintage Cristal in one hand and Veronica's waist with the other. "To the future," Albert announced, his voice booming. "To the Stanford Group, and to those of us who actually have the vision to lead it." The room erupted in applause. Veronica leaned in and kissed his cheek. "You're so powerful, Albert. It's a shame about your former situation." "Forget her," Albert scoffed. "She was a stepping stone. A man in my position needs a woman of substance, someone who belongs in a room like this." At that exact moment, the massive oak doors at the back of the hall creaked open. The music didn't stop, but the conversation did. It died out in a wave, starting from the back and moving toward the front. The security guards at the door didn't ask for an invite. They stepped aside and bowed their heads. I walked in. Each click of my heels on the marble floor sounded like a heartbeat. Albert didn't see my face at first. He only saw the dress, the diamonds, and the way the most powerful men in the room suddenly stood up straighter. He whispered to Veronica, "Who is that? Is that a foreign dignitary?" I kept walking until I was 10 feet away from him. The light from the chandeliers caught the Star of Stanford, and the room went blind for a second from the refraction. Albert's glass slipped. It hit the floor and shattered. "Nora?" he gasped, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. What are you doing here? How did you get those clothes? Did you steal that?" Veronica stepped forward, her eyes narrowed in jealousy. "Albert, who is this woman? Security! This woman doesn't belong here." The security team moved, but not toward me. They formed a perimeter around me, facing outward. They were protecting me from them. "Albert," I said, my voice calm and carrying through the silent hall. "You told me I didn't belong in your circle. You told me I was trash." Albert tried to find his bravado. He looked around at his colleagues, feeling the heat of their confusion. "I don't know what kind of stunt this is, Nora. You probably spent our entire savings on a rental dress to try and ruin my night. Leave now, or I'll have you arrested." He turned to the board members. "I apologize for this. My wife has been having some mental health struggles. She's obsessed with my success. If you were in Nora's shoes, standing there while the man you sacrificed everything for told a room full of people you were crazy, how would you react? Tell me what part hit you the hardest in the story and share your thoughts in the comments." I laughed. It was a rich, melodic sound that made Albert flinch. "Our savings, Albert," I asked. "You mean the $3,000 in the joint account? That wouldn't even pay for the insurance on this necklace for an hour." I turned to the front of the room. "Henry?" Henry Wood stepped out from the shadows of the stage. He held a leather-bound folder. "Albert Vance," Henry said, his voice cold and official. "You were promoted tonight to Vice President of Operations on the recommendation of the search committee. However, all promotions within the Stanford Group are subject to final approval by the chair of the board." Albert smirked. "Exactly. And the chair will be here any minute. He'll have this woman dragged out." "The chair," Henry corrected, "is already here." Henry stepped toward me and handed me the folder. I didn't take it. I just looked Albert in the eye. "You wanted to know who I am, Albert. You wanted to know why I smell like grease. It's because I spent 7 years working in diners and garages to pay for your tuition, while my family's trust fund sat untouched. I wanted to see if a man could love a woman for her heart and not her bank account." The room was so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. "My name is Nora Cooper Stanford," I announced. The name Stanford hit the room like a physical blow. The Cooper part had hidden me in plain sight, but everyone knew the Stanford name. "I am the majority shareholder of this corporation. I am the woman who signed your paycheck for the last 3 years, and I am the woman whose dress you burned tonight." Albert's knees actually buckled. He grabbed the edge of a banquet table to keep from falling. No, that's impossible. You're Nora. You're just Nora." "I am Nora," I said, "and you are fired." Veronica tried to slip away, sensing the sinking ship, but I glanced at her. "And Veronica? Your father is the director of logistics. Or he was, until I looked at the books this evening and realized he's been overbilling the company to pay for your designer handbags. Henry, see to it that the audit is turned over to the authorities by morning." The advancement party turned into a funeral for Albert's career. "Nora, please," Albert blubbered, stepping toward me. I was stressed. "I didn't mean those things. We're a team. Think of everything we've been through." "I am thinking about it," I said. "I'm thinking about the nights I worked double shifts while you went to study groups that I now realize were just dates with women like Veronica. I'm thinking about the way you looked at me tonight when you held that lighter." I turned to the room. "The party is over, except for Albert. He needs to stay for a moment." The guests scrambled to leave. They didn't want to be near the blast zone. Within minutes, it was just me, Henry, my security, and a trembling Albert in the middle of the empty, glittering ballroom. "I gave you everything," I whispered, walking up to him. And you thought I was nothing because I didn't flaunt it. You didn't just burn a dress, Albert. You burned the only person who actually gave a damn about your soul. It's a heavy realization when you find out the person you supported was only using you as a ladder. Have you ever felt underestimated by someone you loved? Share your point of view in the comments below. What am I supposed to do? Albert cried. I have nothing. I put everything into this job. Actually, Henry interjected, the house is in Nora's name. The car is a company lease. And given the morality clause in your new contract, which you signed an hour ago, you are entitled to 0 severance. I leaned in close to his ear. I'm not just taking your job, Albert. I'm taking the life you thought you earned. You can go back to that backyard and see if there are any scraps of that blue dress left. Maybe you can fashion a blanket out of them. I walked out of the ballroom and into the cool night air. Henry followed me to the waiting limo. What now, ma'am? He asked. Now, I said, looking at the city skyline, I go to work. I've spent 7 years being a support system. I think it's time I actually run my empire. As the limo pulled away, I saw Albert being escorted out of the hotel by security. He didn't have his jacket. He had lost it in the scuffle. He looked small. He looked like the trash he had accused me of being. I felt a strange sense of peace. The blue dress was gone, but the fire had forged something much stronger in its place. I had spent years trying to fit into his world, only to realize I owned the world he was trying so hard to impress. Before we finish this story, I want to thank you for riding along on this journey of justice. If you enjoyed seeing Nora reclaim her throne, please hit that like button and subscribe to Underestimated Saga. We bring you stories of the people the world overlooked, until they couldn't be ignored anymore. The road ahead was long and the divorce would be messy, but for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't carrying anyone else's weight. I was Nora Cooper Stanford, and I was just getting started. Life has a funny way of showing you people's true colors when the lights are at their brightest. Albert thought he was climbing a mountain, never realizing he was standing on the shoulders of a giant. Thank you so much for watching and supporting Underestimated Saga. Stories like Nora's remind us that your value isn't defined by what you wear or what you do for a living. It's defined by your character. And if someone can't see the queen in you when you're in rags, they don't deserve to be by your side when you're wearing the crown. Don't forget to like, comment with your thoughts on Albert's promotion, and subscribe for more cinematic sagas. We'll see you in the next one.